And then if there's time remaining after they all answer those 3 questions, I'll open it up to you guys and you can address questions to the boys. So, and I wanted to say thank you all so much for being here today. I know this is the part of the summit that I personally have been most excited about for the whole 3 days, so thank you. Okay, so the first question that I would like to pose to everybody is, do you consider yourself a reader? If so, what experiences, people, or books helped you become a reader? And if not, what kept you from becoming a reader? And I just want to emphasize that there is no right answer here. We just want you to be honest. So, William, if you'd like to start.
As far as myself, I would consider myself a reader because I'm an individual. I love learning about new things. I love learning about life and the struggles that people had to go through to get to where we are today. So I enjoy reading about history, specifically African American history, just learning what our forefathers fought for us to gain opportunities we have today.
Hello. I consider myself a reader also. You know, reading gives you that sense of knowledge and entertainment at the same time. So, you know, you can put yourself into a book that is entertaining. It's like an adventure sometimes. Also, the knowledge aspect of it, also of actually gaining knowledge.
Can you all hear? Sorry.
No. I just leave my phone on my.
Okay, yeah, so.
Hello?
Okay. Would you like William and James to repeat what they said? Okay, great. All right, so Caleb.
Yes, I would consider myself a reader. I prefer, I guess, ideas and opinions to be well developed, and you just can't get that through, I guess, television. My favorite writer, Bomani Jones. I like to read his articles because not only is he very intelligent, he has a great sense of humor. So I think you get certain things, certain elements of humor, certain things you wouldn't catch in television. You can see in a book or in one of his articles. So yes, thank you so much.
Yes, I consider myself a reader as well. One of my favorite books is Black Boy by Richard Wright. I consider myself a reader because, to piggyback on what they said, it's very easy to obtain knowledge through reading as opposed to going through experiences. So I think it's a good idea to be a reader.
Yeah, of course I consider myself a reader. Kind of different from what they said. I like reading. It's just fun. We all learn from reading, but primarily I read just to, I have a couple hours, I can see reruns on television or I can, finish a chapter and, figure out what's going to happen next. Sometimes we will be able to see ourselves in books in ways we didn't normally think we would. And it doesn't have to be an African American character, for me to be able to see myself. It can just be an open-minded character or a smart character or a funny character. And from that, I can just think to myself, this author wasn't writing for Julius Walker, but Julius Walker was able to learn something about himself in, I don't know. I ramble a lot, but it's just like I read for the fun of it, and it's weird because I remember when I was starting middle school, I get in trouble for reading a lot because, I'm serious. Teachers would say I'm smart, so we get done doing math or whatever, and then I'd be like, oh, people are still doing it. Let's crack this open. Julius, what are you doing? I'm trying to finish the chapter. Well, no, it's not time for that. And, when I got older, well, it's not like I'm old. When I grew up a little bit more, I thought back on that and I always wondered why wasn't it the time for reading? I'm not trying to make a point. I'm just serious, why wasn't it the time for reading? Because I would rather myself and, my children in the future to decide when they have free time to read in a classroom than to draw on a desk in a classroom or to talk to somebody else who's not done. Because, I mean, teachers, you know, somebody will be talking to their friend, and when they're not done and they're disruptive, you know, John got Jimmy in trouble for talking, but I mean, why am I also in, you know, getting my parents called because, you know, I'm being disruptive for reading because I thought I was reading to my, I don't know. I ramble a lot, but yeah. Yes, we go.
Yes, I consider myself a reader as well. I love reading basically for the same reason Julie just said. It's fun to me, and I like hearing about those adventure books because I like putting myself in like those situations. Like it's fun. Whenever I have a spare time, I just pick up a book and I read it. I started off when I was younger. I used to love the Harry Potter series. My sister passed those books down to me. But my last recently good book I like to read was The Rockin' River. Me and Julie's got an autograph, so we're very happy about that. So, and yes, I also know what Julie's means about the whole reading thing after a test when everybody else is finished and you're reading a book. And sometimes teachers, not all my teachers, but some teachers have gotten on me about that before, but why are you reading? But yes, I consider myself a reader.
Thank you. All right, next question. Do you consider yourself to be a library user? Why or why not? Well, do you want to start with Andrew and work our way back this time? Is that okay, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it okay to say if I used to be a library user? Yeah. Because I got my first library card and I went crazy. I used to get like 5 books and just read and give it back. But unfortunately, I guess I kind of grew out of it, or I just don't go to the library as much. But I used to love going to the library, but I guess I'm not really that much of a library user now, unfortunately.
Well, you gotta tell us why. What happened, so we can fix
Man.
So I should say the next question is if you could create the perfect library, what would it be like? So we might be answering a little bit of that in the next question, but if you want to say something now, you can.
Well, I'm gonna tell my wife about it. I'm not really sure why I started going to the library. I guess just my time, like, I usually had other things to do as when I got older, like hanging out with friends or with basketball and just things like that. I just stopped going to the library. I wish I would keep going now. Maybe I will go back to this.
Where do you get books now?
My grandfather, he works at a library, he's a security guard. He brings back books he thinks is interesting. And I read those most of the time. His name is Papa Jimmy. I love my papa. Yeah, he'll bring back those books and I'll read them. And he knows the books I like to read, so I just give it back to him. He lives in Winston-Salem. What's the name of the library? The Woodruff Center. That's my great-grandma's library. Her name is Shona, so, yep.
Okay, Julia?
Shout out to Papa Jimmy. I guess I kind of like fell out and went back up. When I was younger, we had, I don't know if they still have the AR, I was talking about like the AR program. And we read the books and we get the points and that was fun. So I did that a lot in the school library in elementary school. And then in middle school, we had the AR program there too. And then in high school, it was just, well, the high school I went to, Josephine Dodge Clement Early College High School on Central's campus, it was like really fast paced. So I didn't really find in the beginning, I didn't find as much time or extra time to read. But then as I became like a junior, senior, and I got used to it, I read books that are usually just, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I just do that anyway. Because I just, look and I just see what's interesting and I, read the dust jacket. Do they still call it that? Yeah. The dust jacket. And, I look at the picture of the author and I read that. And, I see it feels interesting to me and I just, read it. But, yeah, I fell out of high school. But as I'm in college now, I found that I had copious amounts of free time, way more than I thought I would. And I began to read one Q84 by Haruki Murakami, and what was the point of what I was saying? Mainly just I came back into it because I had free time, and personally, I mean, I like playing video games, of course, you know, watching TV and stuff, but there's a lot of free time in college where you can just sit and you're alone, whether you want to be or not. And I find reading is one of the best things you can do during that time. So I mean, I guess personally, it's just in my nature to just pick up a book and read it. So it's kind of like a really simple answer for me is just, why not read a book, to be honest? You know, it's fun. So that was my random answer.
Thank you. So Tevin, do you consider yourself a library user?
I used to be a big library user. When I first got my library card, I used to go to the library every day and check out like 4 or 5 books. I probably still got library fines for not bringing some of those books back. But I actually kind of shied away from it a little bit as I've grown up and stuff. I use the library now, but not as much as I used to. I used to just go there mainly for the computer as well. I used to stay at the computer when I go to the library. But yeah, I would consider myself a library user.
Okay. Caleb?
Yes, I would consider myself a library user. Now I use it more for going to print things off when you have, you know, deadlines and assignments due. That's a way that it indirectly costs me, but it doesn't cost you like, you know, buying paper and getting a printer. Now I use it for studying. When I have a question about a book, or a question about a topic, if I'm able to find that book in the library, then yes, I'll go to the library and use that. So I use it, it's not as frequent as, say, like when I was younger, and I would go, you know, several times a week just to sit and read, but I still do use it.
James?
I would have to say I'm not a library user. I kind of shied away from it. One of the reasons for doing that is I cannot study like I went to the library anymore or read a book because of the traffic going in and out. Because, you know, you have your friends coming in and out and you're trying to talk to them, but you're trying to do your work. So at the end of the day, I end up not doing as much as I could have at home. Another reason is technology. So computers are usually what I use when I go to the library. And when I go to the library, it's quick. I already know what I'm trying to print off, trying to do before I even step foot in. And the library, you know, is dull to me. You know, the white walls, the gray carpet, it makes you sleepy. So when I want work done, I try to avoid places where I'm sleepy. So.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry.
Can I just ask, did you mean that because you can do things online before you go to the library, it speeds up your time in the library? Is that what you were meaning?
Yes, like
That's okay.
if I can find a book or a specific passage on the internet, then that would.
I got you.
Okay.
Well, when I was younger, the only reason why I actually went to the library is to rent out movies. I wasn't a big reader when I was little, but the one thing I actually really do appreciate about North Carolina Central University's library is we have 3 floors, and on the 3rd floor is like really secluded and quiet, and that's the only way I can really study. So one thing I do, like, especially, well, I guess everybody does, like, around finals time, but like when because I'm the type of person I like to get my work done ahead of time, so I don't have to crunch it out at the end like I used to. So I'll just take all my stuff and just go sit in a little corner by myself, throw on my headphones, and be in there for hours just doing work.
All right, so the last question that I have for all of you guys is, if you could design the perfect library, what would it be like? And that could be anything from what types of books or materials would it have in it, what type of people would work there, what would it look like, what programs would they have. It can be absolutely anything that you would like to talk about. So I'll ask this time, would anyone like to start? Andrew? Great.
So a library where anything, I can make up anything.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Your wildest imagination.
if I could have my own library and make anything, I wouldn't want it to be quiet. I don't know, I'm just not good at staying silent in the library. I like to be able to talk, and it may be disruptive, but if I'm reading a book and I find something interesting, I want to tell my friend about it, and don't want to be shh the whole time and get in trouble and things like that. But yeah, that wouldn't be a rule in my library. I would have programs, basically like they do now for little children, and try to make reading fun for them, so when they grow up, they can continue to be readers. Have happy librarians. Not the grumpy ones. I want everybody to be happy there. I want all sorts of books, any type of book, so that everybody can just come in there and read. They can be different languages, like Japanese, or adventure books. Like, I just want it to be free and not quiet. I want silence.
Thank you. Julius, anyone go
I'll
next?
have to think.
Okay, you want to go next? William?
My perfect library, first of all, I need food there. So, like, and as far as food, so I mean, like, food that makes you go to sleep, like, fresh foods, like, little finger food. I like technology, so, like, we have touchscreen panels everywhere, iPads everywhere, Wi-Fi accessible. And somebody stayed at this point yesterday, I didn't really think about it, tutors, because one thing that especially, like, African-American males have an issue with, when they don't know something, they don't really reach out to get the help they need. And when you have people there that are willing to help you out, and you have people there that are excited about helping you out, that excites you and that encourages you to do better and work harder. Because I know growing up, I was always the type of person, if I didn't know something, I wouldn't ask, for the simple fact that I didn't want to look stupid. So as I grew up, I realized that, you know, even the smartest people have to ask for help sometimes. And so that'd be an important factor in my library. And going back to what I said about technology, we live in an age where everything's computerized. And so, and also having people there that can help you, like you were saying about happy librarians, have people there who can help you like function different things, have people there that can like help you find whatever books you want, because it's kind of sad to say, but until this semester I didn't know how to actually find a book in the library, because I just usually just go online. But like just have people there that are able to show you that.
And if I can create my ideal library, first of all, it would be somewhere where people would be excited to come. Like, most people like shy away from the library, like, oh, it's quiet, it's kind of boring, it's like, makes you sleepy. I would like you said, I wouldn't want a library that'd be completely silent. Like, it's just not me. Book-wise, I would have a wide variety of books. Basically, everything that can be read, I would want there. As Will said, food come in handy. So you gotta leave. There's no reason to stay there. Technology-wise, pretty advanced, more user-friendly. Basically, people to help you. Say if you're there and you can't find the book, someone will reach out to you. Hey, let me help you find this book, or let me help you study, something like that. And yeah, just staff that want to help, basically.
My ideal library would incorporate more technology, like Will said, because I prefer to use technology. If there's access to technology, why wouldn't I want to use that instead of? I mean, I know this sounds bad, but you know, looking at a book, why would I choose a book over having access to an iPad or something like that?
Just curious what kind of technology you're looking.
iPads, you know, Nooks, Kindle readers, things like that. And also, I would add a stress release. The library state, when you go downstairs, there's just like a little interactive area where they have iPads with games on them, and then they have a TV with video games. I know it seems like a distraction, but when people do study, or when I study, after about a couple hours, I need to, you know, I will take a break just to build up my stamina. I would like to have a mix of students and you know, people who know the library, because you want to feel comfortable asking someone a question, and I know I feel comfortable asking a fellow student or someone I see on campus every day or communicate with every day, asking a question. Like Will said, I would like a tutor, because a lot of times in college you get to run around, and that's a part of college. I know that's a part of college. But you would prefer to have things in one area, because that's, it's an extra incentive to get something done.
I'm going to hit on some of the points of why I'm not a library user, and I would want my library to be not brighter, but a little bit, have some light in there or something, because you don't want to, like I said before, you don't want to walk in somewhere and you just feel tired. So it won't be lots of colors, it'll just be brighter. So, but I also want to have space. When I go into a library or a computer lab, you bunch together like this and you be trying to type, and it's so cluttered that you cannot really get work done. So I want space. I would like to have a group area, because you come in there with your friends too, and if you have group projects, you want an area where you can work on them still. Bring this table over here, and people be wondering why you moving tables and chairs. So that would be a reason. And also, going back with Will and Caleb said, if you want a librarian or staff that can actually help you, instead of saying, I don't know, go to here, and then they don't know, you have to go 4 different places, or they just tell you to go to a computer and look it up for yourself. So I want somebody who's well informed. And to keep people there, you do want food, and I would have some type of aerobic or some type of, to get people moving. Because if I'm at a library, you keep me to stay there, then I'll stay there longer. So that's it. Thank you.
I had to think about mine because I know my thoughts are usually everywhere, but they talked about like the infrastructure and the people in there, but I think in my perfect library, it would just need a lot of books, like a lot of books on every subject, because I really dislike having to, I would assume a college library would have books on every subject, so if when I was at early college and I needed a specific book, so I would go to Shepherd's Library, and they would say, well, we don't have that, and I like how, I think it's Duke, UNC State, and Central have their libraries, a lot of libraries connected, so you can look, if they don't have it at Central, but you can use your Central ID or whatever to get a book from State or wherever it's closest. But I still don't like the fact that they wouldn't have a book at Central, or I would look in the directory, I guess, and they wouldn't have it at Duke, or they wouldn't have it yeah, you can't have every single book out there, but for me, it would just need to have, every subject available. And I think library is kind of I won't say a broad term, but it can be very specific, because we're all in, higher education, high school, higher education, hiring up, and they all talked about things that you would think in like a college library. What about like a children's? Well, he spoke on like a children's library. They have to be able to have their incentives, so when they get to be our age, they go in these college libraries and they don't shy away from it, because when I was a kid and when, we had AR, well, they would say things, they would say, we had AR, and when I go to college and it's like, the librarian doesn't want to help me, and I got to find this, and the book number, it was like 101.8567D, and I got to find the thing, and I can't, I feel like, it should have not only what they want, but what they need. I feel like, to me, just the library system should, in a way, just make it so everybody feels welcome. Like I said, they should be able to like to read as a child, and then when they get to be our age, they come to, UNC Chapel Hill or Central or the Duke or UNC Charlotte, and when they get in there, they not only see that, yeah, you know, I have my book for my philosophy course, but they also have books by, you know, I think it's J.L. Tolkien or whatever, or James F. David, who wrote one of my favorite books, Fragments. And they have books by Haruki Murakami, and they have books by all the Garth Nix, who wrote Shakespeare's Children, one of my other favorite books. Just all these different types of books on all these subjects and all these authors, so that when they're done with their philosophy course, they can go and just sit and be able to read whatever they want. But also I think, and it might sound political, but I think every library should have a Bible, a Quran, and a Torah. I don't know if there's anything else out there that is like that, but I just think, I mean, libraries are kind of political in a sense, because, you know, some places, you know, I don't know any specific instances, but I'm sure there are instances of certain places, probably in the South, that didn't want to carry a Torah, didn't want to carry a Quran for whatever reason. But I mean, we live in America. If we're supposed to be free, we have to make everybody here feel like they're free. And I mean, you know, when you're a kid, it's like, you know, go to the library so you can read and all that. But if you don't feel welcome, even like in a little crevice of, you know, your life, oh, well, you know, my mom, you know, our Quran got whatever, I'm going to go to the library, because you would assume they would have one, and you get there, and, you know, then you get, I don't know. I'm just rambling, but I just feel like, I mean, the library is kind of like one of those things in American society where it's like, well, it's there. And, you know, it's like, it's there, so you can use it, but I feel like even with the technology we have nowadays, you should use it, because, I mean, I don't know. How do I wrap this up? I don't remember, like, who specifically. I know, this is like a broad thing, but I know we've all known, like, history or whatever, when generals would come into like a different society, the first thing they would burn were books. They did that for a reason, and I mean, we all know what I'm talking about, but I think that's just how I wrap it up. I mean, they burned books first for a reason. So I just think, as Americans, we shouldn't burn our own books.
A quick comment and then a question. And just even for me personally, I have young kids and they use the library a lot, but I was out of town recently in Baltimore, and I needed something, and I went to the library, and as an adult, I really had no idea what happens in the library anymore, because you go to the library as a child, and then you have that stage where you don't go to the public library. And when I went to the library, I was shocked at the number of people in there checking out records and music and books on. I mean, because if you're not connected, you just don't know what libraries do anymore. And I don't know. I was just thinking, I don't see any commercials on TV about libraries to say what's happening. So there's just such a disconnect where adults really, unless you have kids, you probably don't know what happens in the library. So just something I was thinking about before the students. One of the criticisms we hear is that African Americans don't read a whole lot, particularly African American males in general. Some do, but there's a perception that they don't read. What would get you to read more, or your friends, your male friends, to even read more for leisure, not just for schoolwork, but would get them to actually desire to read more books?
I know for myself, growing up, the reason why I never really took up reading is because everything that I read, I was assigned, and I never really found anything that I was interested in. The first book that I actually took interest in, it's a book by, I forgot whose Bible, it's called The Giver, and it's a book about a utopian society, and it just intrigued me. And if you truly want to be passionate about something, you have to have some type of interest in it, whatever it may be. And that's to speak for, like myself, I want to be successful. So I'm going to make the steps to get to that point.
try to find why you're reading. Like, okay, try to ask the questions that's on the sheet of paper, or you try to find the main point. So to take away that, I think, like Will said, you have to find something that's interesting and non-school related. And something that I was just thinking about, if you can just go to a computer and just type in your likes, like I like this, I like this, I like this, and they give you a category of books that you might be interested in, I think that would be something.
I guess I would have that same question. I don't know. As a child, you go to the library, and everyone wants to go to the library for the most part, because it seems like a fun atmosphere when you're young, and it's colorful. You know, the shelves are smaller, so it's not as intimidating, I guess. I don't know where that interest goes away, but you know, you would like it to stay there. For me, reading, I want reading to first start with interest, and then so I can build up stamina for, like, you know, topics I just need to know things about. That may not necessarily be interesting, but you want to read for knowledge. So I guess you just have to do a better job of exposing children to different topics, exposing adults to different topics, just so you can pique their interest. Because if you're interested about something, you know, you're going to go read about it.
I know, I know you've talked a lot about college libraries, which is great, but do you guys remember any particularly good or bad experiences from school libraries when you guys were younger, or school librarians?
Guys, make sure you can be as honest as
Yeah.
Okay.
So be honest, please. That's what we ask you to come here for. We want to hear what you have to say. We value what you have to tell us.
Bad experiences. The library just seems like to always be that place where I get in trouble. Really, I wasn't a bad student, but I would always get disciplined in the library. Really, librarians, I guess, didn't really like me because I just talk too much. Really, that's the only bad experience I really have. I was looking at librarians.
What about good?
Good experience?
Yeah.
None.
Bad experiences in the library. Some bad experiences, like you said, talking. Like, I like to talk, so I would get disciplined for talking in the library a lot. Also moving around a lot. I couldn't sit still. I always was going somewhere, looking at something or touching something or something like that. Good experiences. I met a lot of friends at the library. Learned a lot of things. That's basically it.
Oh, I was thinking.
My high school library experience was good, actually. I mean, I didn't like that it was it was a place you could pass through, so that you got a lot of traffic sometimes. But the librarian I have, she wasn't an ornery lady. She was a nice lady, so you felt like you could talk. I know that's a big thing. I do agree with what you said earlier. When you read something, or it was always the case for me, when I read something that was interesting or something I thought I wanted to share, you wanted to be able to talk and tell someone about it. And my library, I guess, it was a big library, so the sound didn't, or it was built somewhere where the sound didn't carry, so you didn't feel like you were a distraction. So you actually could tell people about what you read, or tell people about what you just saw in the book.
When I was a kid in middle school, I was one of those kids that, like, I did stuff on purpose to get under people's skin. And so, like, we had this librarian, and growing up in urban Minneapolis, like, me and my group of friends, like, we just felt like everybody was out to get us. time period had to go through, like, it just intrigued me, and I had never experienced anything like that. And that was the first instance where, like, reading was fun to me, and, like, I enjoyed reading, and I wanted to pick up another book and continue reading.
Okay, I saw one hand back here first, and then, how are we doing on time? Okay.
One thing that I noticed that you guys never mentioned, you mentioned going to the library as a child, you mentioned being in college, but you never talked about until just a little bit, middle school and high school. I work in a public library. My job is to work with middle school and high school students. I want to know what we can do to make it more inviting, because it doesn't sound like you use the public library at all in middle school or high school, or if you did, what did you use it for? Where are we failing you in a public library?
What could they do to get you to come in the door?
I know in high school and middle school, you just wanted a mutual place where you and your friends could hang out without, with privacy, or not necessarily privacy, just so your parents weren't there. So, just like I was suggesting earlier about just having a stress release there, if you can go there, if maybe you go there for just to play with the iPad, or just to play the video games, or just to be in that big area where you can talk, then maybe if you're in the library, you'll eventually get the books. So just having a place, I guess talking is mainly just a place where you can talk, just where the library doesn't seem like such an uptight place to be.
Myself, I would say, make the library somewhere where somebody wants to come to. Because when you're in high school, that's the last place you want to go. When you're in high school, you think about a library, you automatically associate it with work. And for most kids, I know, like, from my case, like, I was an athlete. I was a kid that got good enough grades so I could play varsity. And that was fine for me. So, like, bring different people in to speak. Bring different, like, find what the kids are interested in, and, like, take that and explore it. Maybe the kids like poetry, so have like an open mic night one night, or maybe the kids like music, bring like a band or something. Like a lot of kids around here, like a lot of kids around America and short, like they have little bands. Like invite them to come play, have their friends come watch, and make the library inviting. So when the kids they think about library, oh yo, that's that place we went to last night. They had that poetry night, or they had that rap session or whatever. Make the kids excited about it, because the last thing a 16 or 17-year-old wants to do is go to the library to go read a book.
Yeah.
I did. We talked a lot about reading, and we talked about the library, but we're here to talk about literacy too. And so when we talk about reading, we should also talk about writing too. Now I want to see, like, if you guys feel that you've been prepared to be good writers, because if you understand the process of writing, then you also know how to read for information. So I just want to see if you guys feel like you've been prepared in that manner, using the library or throughout your education from K through 9.
Really quickly, I just want to answer her question because I had something to say. In middle school, I didn't really use the public library. I had a library down the street, Parkwood, and it's not there anymore. Well, they had a new location, but I never really needed it. So I guess the public library in those middle school to high school years are basically a place to get information, like specifically. Like, a teacher tells you to write a paper on this, and you really only think to use the library if they tell you that they know it's specifically there. Because I know on my own, in middle school and in high school, if I tried to say, well, I need this many sources and this many have to be books, but then I go to my local public library, they might not have it, which I think I touched on earlier about, libraries not having any things. So I would have to go to the main library downtown and, the whole thing about, oh, well, yeah, this guy just checked it out. And I'm like, well, what about me? Because, if there's only one copy of a book in the county, and we all go to the same, well, there are like 3 or 4 high schools in the county, I don't know how, my numbers aren't right, but 3 or 4, high schools in the county, and we're all learning from a basic curriculum where we're all learning about Langston Hughes at the same time, we're all learning about, Zora Neale Hurston at the same time. How we're literally hundreds of students all gonna do a paper on Zora Neale Hurston at the same time if there's only maybe 5 books or 5 of the same thing. So I think that part of the library system kind of fails in a way, because then we go to the internet and then, anybody can write anything on the internet, so whether it's true or not, we gotta have, we gotta check this source and do this and that. But that was answering her question. Your question about feeling like if we're
prepared to be a writer.
Prepared to be a writer.
And if you understand that process, because they go hand in hand.
I don't personally, reading and writing were never, when I was taught, they were never connected. I mean, we all, well, I would say most of us, I don't want to be correct, most of us probably grew up learning English, so we didn't have to, study it. And by that, I mean, we know how to read. We're all literate in here, so it was never like, I'm reading this and, oh, this is how this person writes, and they write this way, and I see how they use this type of alliteration or things like that. I see it's very nice. I might put that in my writing. It was always just, it was, I mean, I'm in public school, so it's expected you know how to read. I know some people don't, and, that's a problem. But what I'm saying is, it was expected that we know how to read. It was never connected to writing. And when we read certain books by certain authors, we never had to pay attention to how they wrote. We just had to pay attention to what they wrote, to write reports on that so the teacher would give us a name or whatever. And in English, people would say, I don't know how to write, and we had to write a paper about specific things. Or I remember not personally, but one of the most challenging assignments it seemed to other people was to write about any subject they wanted to in English class, because then they didn't have to, paraphrase quotes, and they didn't have to, put in basically common information and just restate it. They had to state what they already knew and write at the level they know how to write, and that seemed like a problem to them, not personally, but I think they were never connected, like, oh, this person writes well, we should learn from that. It was just like, okay, well, we're literate, so if you know how to read, you know how to write. And it was just expected, and then people would get bad grades, and it was always like, oh, your grammar's wrong, or, I see what you did there, but it was never like, I see this is your style of writing. It was never like, because I believe people have like styles of writing. So the teachers I had were never keen on that. It was like, well, you can write about anything you want, but I would advise you to write about this if you want to get a grade. Like, we just did the thing about Zora Neale Hurston, so if you could talk about African-American females, that was nice, kind of thing. But I guess to his question, it was just never connected. And personally, I feel like as a student, I had to do my own kind of research and look for this class, or, look for this workshop, or look for this summer program to enhance my writing. I was told I was a good writer, so personally I didn't have to do that. But, my mother would tell me about this camp and do that, and there was this poetry class, and there was, this and that. And really quickly, I like at Charlotte, to graduate, you have to write, we have 2 writing requirements. One is a writing requirement based on your major, and the other one is just English. I already filled the English requirement from a class I took at Central, but just like overall writing requirement on anything other than your major. And I think that's important because it just, colleges, so we learn specific things in colleges to get good careers, but from day one in elementary school, I thought we were all supposed to be well-rounded. And I like how Charlotte has the writing requirement so we can stay, I just think it helps us stay well-rounded. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you know, people complain about, yeah, we don't use math every day, whatever. But I think writing is something that we all use and we don't, I would say we just take it for granted because people just don't use the correct grammar, and that just gets on. I just don't like that. Maybe that's just me, and I just don't like how slang is getting into like the official dictionaries now, because it just seems to me like if we're doing that, then we might as well not even speak correctly. You know, if we're gonna have slang in the dictionary, then why are we having? I don't know. But that's just, I ran.
I agree with Julius. Writing and reading they are not taught together, but I can see where reading can help you write. From when we were small, we read the 3 words on the 1 page, and over time now we look at a text and it has multiple words. And when we were small, we just saw the chair, but now we can tell about the chair. We can express what about the chair we love, what about the chair doesn't have 4 legs, and stuff like that. So it broadens our imagination. So it gives us insight that we can write about anything rather than just specific. So it helps us broaden our imaginations.
As a mass comm major at North Carolina State University, before the mass comm department is now getting its own department, but part of this, like right now we have a joint program with the English department. And when I first got to Central, I didn't really like that because I wanted to be a mass comm major and political science minor. But then they told me, my advisor was like, if you want to graduate in a timely fashion and you want to make things a little bit easier, so you should think about making English your minor because you're going to have to take so many English courses anyway, so you might as well have that instead of having 2 minors and overstressing yourself. And then when I made the decision that I wanted to go to law school, like that really hit home because I realized that all the lawyer does is read and write anyways. So you're gonna have those life skills. And in all my class, my writing class, my reading and writing classes, all we do is write. That's all we do. And we have this thing essentially called the writing and speaking studio. And so I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my work. So I'll write a paper and I'll go there 2 to 3 times before I actually turn it in to make sure the paper is as good as possible.
To answer your question, I think K through 9, it didn't do as good of a job preparing me for writing just because during that time span I was more forced to write on a topic, and I'd rather just be taught grammar and then write about something I'm interested in, and then the grammar will help strengthen, you know, what I'm interested in. I know with the writing test, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand, you know, being given a prompt that was boring, and then being forced to write well about a topic that was boring. I just couldn't do it, and I never did poorly, but I never did as well as I could. And ironically, my best writing was in a chemistry class when we did an assignment about we were learning about moles, and we had an assignment, you know, where we did like a parody of a mold, where we used an actual, you know, molded animal. And I wrote a story, and it was very well written. It was a parody. It was about like a mole as a spy, and it was real. I should have framed it. It was real. But that, because I had the flexibility, and I actually felt like I could take this and go anywhere with it, I wrote very well, as opposed to being given a prompt and being forced to just sit there and look at it and be like, okay, how can I make this, you know, interesting? I would take the writing test, the writing benchmark, and the writing prompt, and I would write just something really quick just to get it over with so I could go to sleep. It was that boring and I couldn't stand it. So I hope, I know they got rid of it, I think the writing test, so I hope the emphasis emphasis on writing and teaching is more on grammar, so that you can be more flexible. Because if you'll write well, if you're interested about a topic, if you're interested about a genre, if you want to write about romance, adventure, sports even, you're going to write well if you know what you're talking about. So I just hope the emphasis is more just on grammar as opposed to a topic.
Okay, we have about 5 more minutes, but I think we have a break after this, so I'm going to get to as many questions as possible, but then if the boys are willing to stick around for a little while, maybe you can speak to them individually. So I have no idea whose hand was up, but I've seen Jane's for a while, so Jane.
I would just like to hear more about the books that move you. You mentioned The Giver or the autobiography of Malcolm X, or what were really significant texts for you in your life, or just as a shift, those page turners, those books you just couldn't put down.
Okay. This past semester I took African American literature, and we read a book by, I can't remember his name, but the book was called The Autobiography of the Ex-Colored Man. And it was a book that was placed in the early 1900s, and it was about an individual who he grew up. He was African American. Well, he was half white, half black, but he could pass for being white. And throughout his whole life, like, he thought he was white because he grew up in a pretty nice house. You know, his mother, like, she was very fair skinned, as they described in the text. And so, like, he didn't know he was black until an incident happened at school where the principal came in and asked the teacher, all the white males stand up. And then he stood up, and the teacher looked over and was like, no, sit down, stand up when the Negroes are called. And he ran home instantly. And he was like, Mom, my N-word, am I N-word? She was like, no. But throughout his whole life, he had to deal with that struggle of whether he wanted to be, because he could have lived a pretty good life passing for a white man, whereas he chose the other route and wanted to live as a black man because he wanted to experience the different experiences, because in society, the color of your skin, even though like a lot of people say it doesn't matter, it does. It really does matter. And like, it was just so many different instances where like he flip-flopped back and forth and he could see the differences in it. And it really moved me because it showed me that in my day and age, like I'm an individual growing up, I was told everything from you would never make it to your 18th birthday. By the time you were 18, you'd be shot dead or in jail. And throughout life, I've always been one to take every negative thing that has been said about me and turn it into a positive. I like proving people wrong. I get a thrill out of that. So just being in college, getting ready to graduate, getting ready to start applying for law school, the people back at home, they would have never thought this possible. Dr. Rome, when I first got introduced, Dr. Rome said I made a 4.0 this semester. When I first got to Central and I joined the Centennial Scholars Program, that was something that was highly emphasized. And growing up, I never made anything above a 3.0, so I just thought, automatically, I thought that was impossible. But then they were like, they showed people who did it. I'm a visual person. If you show me something and I can aspire to be it, I'll go for it. So I kept pushing myself, and I kept pushing myself. Fall semester, I came up 180 short. I made a 3.8. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this 4.0 just for the simple fact that I know I can do it for myself. And when I made it, it just went back and showed me that, you know what, you can do anything, no matter what the color of your skin is. You just have to have the drive and ambition to be able to do so.
One book from each of you guys, if you have one to share, and then we'll go ahead and take a break. And if you guys would like to speak to any of these people individually, we can just do that during the break. Is that okay? Do you all have a book to say? If you don't, that's okay too.
Another one of my favorite books that I could really relate to, that kind of gave me motivation, is The Man-Child of the Promised Land by Claude Brown. I can relate to this book because there was a character named Sonny in the book. Basically, he didn't grow up on the best side of life. Basically, he had a lot of experiences that were very devastating, and he went through a lot of things and a lot of trouble, but eventually things started turning around. So I can relate to that. Growing up with my family, we didn't have the best of things, but like he also said, people say things about you, they downshoot you, they tell you what you can't be, what you will never be, and stuff like that, and that motivates me to prove them wrong. Like I also get a kick out of proving people wrong. You tell me I can't do this, and hey, 2 weeks later, look, it's done. So yeah, that's a book I can relate to.
A book, and it's been a while, but I read Copier Boy a few years back, and I really like that book because it just helped me have an appreciation for, I guess, living where I do, because I do believe people are a product of our environment. And, it's frustrating to me with politics because if we have the capacity and the capabilities and the abilities to help other people, it's frustrating that we don't, or we just choose not to for whatever reason. But reading that book and just his struggle and just the things he had to go through to get to where he was, just helped me have an appreciation, because there's no guarantee that if I was in his same situation, I would have done the same thing. You know, I've done well, you know, here where I am, but, you know, the struggles are completely different. So I like reading books like that just so I can have an appreciation for